take it as a question, and I'll come back to you with the answer, inshallah, if that's the case. But without further ado, inshallah, I wanted to start. Today we're going to be talking about the fiqh of fasting, but I also sometimes I like to say the fiqh of Ramadan, because there's some other things around besides fasting that we can also cover in during this month of Ramadan. So what we're going to be covering are these different topics, inshallah. And I'll try towards the end to have more questions. But feel free, if there's something that is not clear. The purpose of this is that we're preparing for the month of Ramadan, and we want to make sure that we are doing this fast correctly. So if there's something that is not clear for you, the best time to stop me and just raise your hand and say, I have a question about this, or can you please clarify this particular point, and I'll do my best, inshallah, to clarify it. Okay. The very first beginning of this is we need to understand what is fasting. So, what is fasting? As our great scholars always do, by the way, and if you've opened any book of fiqh, they usually start with the definition from a linguistic perspective, and then they say there's a definition from a terminology perspective, like a tarif al-shar'i. So the language-wise, fasting actually means to stay away from something or stop doing something. إِنِّي نَذَرْتُ لِلرَّحْمَنِ صَوْمًا فَلَنْ أُكَلِّمَ الْيَوْمَ إِنْسِيًّا. In the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks to us about Maryam alayhi salam when she gave birth to Isa alayhi salam, and she said that I'm going to refrain from talking to people during that time. When she was going to face her people, she has this child. So people were asking, where did this child come from? I said, إِنِّي نَذَرْتُ لِلرَّحْمَنِ صَوْمًا فَلَنْ أُكَلِّمَ الْيَوْمَ إِنْسِيًّا. I've taken an oath or a nadhr that I would not be talking to anyone sawm. I'm going to have the sawm. I'm going to refrain from talking. So this is the linguistic meaning. Whereas the fiqh meaning, the terminology, then when you say we're going to fast Ramadan, what does that mean? It means this. It's to refrain from eating, drinking, and any sexual intercourse during the time of fasting, which is from Fajr to Maghrib. Okay. There's also a couple of other things in the definition here that is extremely important. One, it says, for someone who is eligible for fasting. Because not every single one has the obligation of fasting. We'll talk about this afterwards. Who is eligible? Who is being addressed by this obligation? Who has to fast? Okay. And then we said with the clear intention of worship. That's extremely important as well. Why? Because the intention, also we're going to talk about it, is an integral part of fasting. Because if I wake up one morning, right, and I just didn't eat all day, and I found out, oh wow, it's almost Maghrib time. That's not considered fasting because he didn't have the intention of doing. It just happened that he didn't eat or drink all day. But that does not consider fasting, because fasting requires a clear intention of engaging in this act of worship. Okay? Noor, if there's something, let me know, huh? We're good? When we talk about eating and drinking, okay, there's other things that come under this different category as well, right? And you can see here some of these things. Any type of medicine, anything that you take like an input to your body, that includes as well people who there's smoke as well. Besides the fact it is muharram, it is something you wouldn't be doing, it's something you shouldn't be doing, but if you're smoking, that breaks your fast. But also sometimes, and the scholars talk about this, is there's some stuff like if you have bukhur, bukhur, the incense, it actually has these smoke. So if you intentionally come closer to this bukhur and inhale it in, that actually invalidates your fast as well. Unintentionally, that's something else. Intentionally, doing an act, that's extremely important to know. So things along these lines that included smoke, that it comes from something as such, that you intentionally do, would invalidate this fast. So these are all these things that come into in the body. Okay. And please stop me if you have any particular questions. Okay. We're not talking about the obligatory or the obligation of fast. Who is addressed by this obligation? And this is what the scholars have discussed. It's like, number one, the person has to be first Muslim, right? Islam is a condition for this. So you have to be a Muslim to do it. What does that mean? Just let me take a step back. So someone, and this happens again, because alhamdulillah we live in a country that has, again, we deal with in our workplace and others with people who might be having a positive sentiment about Islam, right? Sometimes they want to share with you a positive thing, say, you know what, I'll fast with you. True? They can fast in that sense to, again, it's showing a positive action or an intention to kind of support us. But the worship piece for the downstairs. You're good? Okay. For the worship piece, the one that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had made it obligatory on us, which is the fasting of Ramadan, you are required to be a Muslim. And they talk sometimes, again, someone, وَالْعَيَاذُ بِاللَّهِ, okay, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect us all and all our children and all our families. Someone just decided one day, is like, you know what, in the middle of Ramadan, he's like, I don't believe this whole thing, I'm an atheist. That invalidates the fasting. Because we said Islam is a requirement. So that's why this piece is important. And they have to, again, even if they come back to Islam, they have to make up this day. Islam is a requirement of this. It's very clear for us, alhamdulillah, because we're Muslim, you're here for this Ramadan conference. That's great, alhamdulillah. We just want to make sure that this is something clear for you as well. 2 is sanity. Okay. Sanity is someone that has, the sound mind. Under this goes also this notion of that someone loses consciousness. So someone who loses consciousness for a longer period of time, they're not obligated because they're not in their conscious mind. They're not obligated to do the fast. Okay. 3, puberty. That's where the obligation comes. So I see, mashallah, we have some younger children as well. For younger children who have not reached the age of puberty, they can still fast and inshallah get the reward from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But are they obligated to fast? The answer is no. The obligation is for someone who reached the age of puberty. Nonetheless, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is kareem. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives rewards for it. So little children who wants, or not even children, like younger ones, who are at the age that they want to practice, and this is a great practice for them, they fast, inshallah, they get the ajr, but they're not obligated to do it. Capable, that's number 4, capable of bearing fast. That's an extremely important point as well. The capability, meaning that you're able to do it with no harm on you. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not want to harm us in any way, shape, or form. So when an obligation comes that might be a harm on someone, they are actually not obliged to fast. That includes someone, for instance, like has a chronic disease. Someone, subhanAllah, that might have, again, has the test of having like diabetes, where they might not be able to fast. I know some family members, they were able to fast because maybe they take the insulin shot early, like suhoor time or something like that. But that's not obligation at that point. If there is as such a harm, something that does not make you capable of doing that, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala excuses you from the fast. And last but not least, and I know the sisters' session is downstairs, but it's extremely important because, again, we have family members as well that might be asking us, children, like daughters and mothers and sisters and wives, that a woman in her period or post giving birth, during this time of bleeding, she is not obliged to fast. And when I say it is not obliged, because that's actually a question that, believe it or not, comes a lot. So I feel like that I am in this time of this month, the period, so I feel like I want to fast. No. You're not obliged to fast, okay? And this is actually a rukhsah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The same one says, I want to pray. No, you cannot. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has put the limits. You and I cannot come to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, especially with the acts of worship, with something other than what He has made obligatory on us. What I mean by this, not obligatory on us, let me kind of qualify this or clarify this a little bit more. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Hadith Qudsi, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam says that the most beloved acts of worship to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala are those that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had made obligatory on us. Okay? the ones that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made obligatory on us are the most beloved acts of worship. To come closer to Allah, engage in these obligatory acts of worship, such as salah, the 5 prayers, siyam, zakah, obligatory. وَمَا زَالَ الْعَبْدُ تَقَرَّبُ إِلَيَّ بِالنَّوَافِلِ حَتَّى أُحِبَّهُ. But the second category is that you can do this extras, this nawafil, something beyond what is obligatory. The first one is still the most beloved, but this one is when you can even come closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you engage in these. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in these different categories of acts of worship, where the intention is to fulfill Allah's requirement from us and come closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, be more beloved to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we have to be following. We are followers. We cannot make up something new in that category. We are just but followers. So if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, you're not allowed to fast during that time, he said, but I want to come closer. No, you're not allowed. Like someone says, I have this in my heart, I want to pray more, so I'm going to do just Asr 5 rak'at instead of 4. You can't. You cannot. Why? The one, subhanahu wa ta'ala, that has obligated in a specific way and form. Clear? One of two things. And inshallah, a lot of you know this, which is great, or I'm extremely clear, which is not usually the case. So please feel free to stop me at any time. Here, this is the different categories. We talked about who is obligated to fast, right? And here are some of the excuses that allows you not to fast. And these are the different categories. Someone with illness, someone who's sick. Okay? We'll come to this later on as well, but keep it in mind. There's two different types of sicknesses as well. One that is more chronic. I mentioned like something as like diabetes, for instance. That's more chronic. There's no, again, at that point, there's no particular cure from diabetes, so that's something that can last for a lifetime. And there are some other sicknesses, like if I have a flu or COVID or whatever it is, that's more temporary in nature. Both of them allow you to break your fast. But to make up the fast, that's different. But both of them allow you to break your fast. That's one. Two, someone of an old age. Okay? And there is, I put a qualification here, where fasting exhausts them. And this is up to the person. There's no definition of that time as like old age is age of retirement. No. The definition is a personal thing. Where someone really, again, and you can tell it. I can tell from my parents if they're able to do it or not. My parents can tell themselves if they're able to do it or not. So this is the old age aspect is something that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala excuses. But anyone who's also overexerted, some people can't take it. Okay? And for that, a lot of times what we would need, especially if you're not of an old age, it's best to go and ask like a doctor, especially, again, I would say very specific, like a Muslim doctor that you trust. Why? Because they understand the fiqh, supposedly. They understand what the rulings are, and they can give you this, say, you are a person who cannot do it. So that's someone that can break their fast as well. Number 3, a traveler. A traveler. They have, in the books of fiqh, like more, more details about this. And maybe I'll touch on a couple of things because it's important. Some of us, again, I travel for work a lot as well. So it's important for those who travel. What constitutes travel? What constitutes travel? There are a lot of discussions around this. I'm going to give you one way of doing it. And if you have very specific questions afterwards, we can answer them to the best of my knowledge. But number 1, you say this is the travel that would allow you to do the qasr, to shorten your prayer. What does that mean as well? Okay. In the vast majority, like the jumhur al-fuqaha, like the majority of the fuqaha, they detail it with they attach it to a distance traveled. A distance traveled. So he said, if your travel is above more than, and there's different ways, like 81 kilometers, 87 kilometers, 89 kilometers, okay? Kilometers. So you can do the math in miles as well. But if it's more than that, let's say it's 89 kilometers, then that you're allowed to break your fast. You're allowed to shorten your prayer, for instance. Okay? So that's the definition of travel. So the definition of traveler is important. Okay? Some other scholars, especially now, alhamdulillah, we have, again, more, and I think that might be something also, I'm not going to quote myself, but it might be something in the madhab Hanbali. They said that travel has to do with what we are accustomed to be as travel. Let me put that again. In this locality, here, North Virginia, when you go from here to Washington, D.C., is this considered travel? Yes? Okay, if you say yes, raise your hand. Okay, you say yes, D.C. The vast majority, and this one's like, the locality, vast majority of people say no. That's what we, as a common culture within our area, D.C. is not considered travel. Okay? Is Baltimore considered travel? Who it says yes, raise your hand. Okay. So, there's a half and half, right? Maybe. So at that point, okay, I would consider me personally, again, besides the fact that matter that it's the distance and so forth, but if let's say we have 95% of the people, and generally speaking, I'm not saying this is specific, generally speaking, if we, as a locality here, consider that to be travel, right, based on the customs of the people here, that can be considered travel. But I gave you the majority opinion first. The majority opinion says it's something that has to do with a specific distance. And the distance they gave is anywhere between 81 kilometers to 89 kilometers, depending on the madhab, okay? And they didn't get this out of thin air, as a matter of fact. They got it because there's a hadith that talks about a safar, day and night, basically, for one full day of travel. And at that time, one full day of travel, the time of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, because you had to be on a camel or a horse or something like that, constitutes this period, this distance, somewhere between the 81 kilometers to the 89 kilometers, give or take. Okay? So that's considered a travel. There's sometimes as well, they also put, but not all of them, they put another stipulation on travel, is that you need to start your travel before the beginning of the day, basically. Before the beginning of the fast. If you do it halfway, midday through the day, okay, some of them, they say, actually, it's better for you to continue your fast. Unless it becomes a mashaqqa, becomes an overburden for you, and then now you go on the other the fasting exhausting them. So you go a different category. Okay? So that's something to keep in mind. Please.
Would recreational traveling, like a vacation, be frowned upon during Ramadan? Like going on vacation?
It is frowned upon is a good word, right? Generally speaking, is it the question again? A lot of times they're dealing with like yes or no, halal and haram. Is it no? It's not. And they say they actually stipulate. They say travel has to be, and I think this is Abu Hanifa, radiyallahu anhu, or like the madhab Hanafi. They say the travel has to be in halal, so you cannot be traveling for a wrong reason. This is considered halal because recreation is not haram. Okay, so this stipulation is taken into consideration. Whether it's frowned upon as the makruh, okay. Someone might put this category of a lot of other stuff that is not really makruh in this term, like it's like really like hated or something like that, but we shouldn't be doing, right? Maybe sometimes they put it as they call it khilaf al-awla. You shouldn't be doing something as such during that. But it's not something, if you are traveling for recreation during the month of Ramadan, and you fulfill the stipulation, you are fulfilling these stipulations of traveler, yes, you're obliged you are able to break your fast. Now there's another question actually becomes, but that's going to take us the fiqh of safar. But it's important, like the time of travel. So when we're saying that during travel, that means if I'm on a flight, driving, on a train, that day of travel, certainly, no question, again, if you fulfill these requirements, you're able to break your fast during that time. But let's say I'm traveling and I'm going to, I don't know, different, like Texas, for 2 weeks. At that point, the days of travel, you're able to do it, but because you're staying there for 2 weeks, you shouldn't be breaking your fast. And I say you shouldn't, and this is the majority opinion as well. And I don't want to go into the details of the majority opinion says if you're traveling around more than 4 days collectively, that's not considered, at that point it's considered iqama, that you're actually staying in this place, Okay? And therefore, not again, during that time, once I land there and I settle, you shouldn't be breaking your fast anymore. Is this clear?
And 4 days, meaning 1 day travel, 2 days there, 1 day travel back, or like?
No. So this is what we're going to take us. That also is a difference in opinion, unfortunately, not unfortunately, but unfortunately, alhamdulillah, but the different madhab has different things, right? If you want to go with the most lenient to a certain extent, is actually Shafi'is on this. So the days of travel are not included. The days of travel are not included. The Malikis, they don't put by days. They put it by number of salawat. So you have to have at least, if you're staying for less than 20 salawat, if you're staying in the locality for less than 20 salawat, 20 different prayers, okay, you're able to kind of, at that point, that's not considered the time of, but less than, so 20 and more, that means you're permanently there. So that you have to calculate it, that when did I come in, if I land like at Maghrib time, and I was like at my place, but there's a distinction there, or like there's like these details there, and I don't want to go into unless maybe you can keep it towards the end if you have more questions about the travel piece, there's more specifications there.
The majority is if you're traveling for 4 days or more, that when you get to that place, you should take your fast again. If you're traveling for less than 4 days,
you're still considered traveling, so you can break. You still consider traveling. Okay. And I know, inshallah, alhamdulillah, a lot of us here, again, historically speaking, from our parents or from our, again, culture or something, that might be following the Hanafi school. Okay. The Hanafi school, the number, like the days of fast is much faster. The days of travel is much faster than that. It's much longer than that. Okay. It's up to 15 days in the Hanafi school. I'm not saying, again, I know this, I'm not a Hanafi articulate person, so I'm not going to talk about something that I don't know, but I know for a fact the Ahnaf have the 15 days of travel that is allowed. So if it's 15 days or less, they allow you, I don't know the break fast, but they allow for the prayer, they allow you to do qasr of prayer. That means you can shorten your prayer. Hanafis, for a lot of you that know as well, mashallah, do not allow jam'a. You cannot do combining of prayers. And I know a lot of us, again, from just practice, when you travel, okay, you're doing jam'a. If you're doing jam'a and qasr, they're not Hanafi at that point. So you cannot be following the Hanafi school. Is this clear? Is this clear? I want to make sure. If you're following a madhab, you're following a school, you need to follow the school. It's not my words. Unless you go and ask an imam who is not me, an actual imam like Imam Majid Sheikh Abdul Rafa, who can give you a fatwa, gives you an actual opinion based on their knowledge. I'm not giving you a fatwa here. I'm telling you what are in the books of fiqh. That's completely different things. Okay? So if you have a specific request, a specific question, you go to Imam Majid or Sheikh Abdul Rafa, okay, and that's the problem when you get the backup, right? I can't do that, right? But the Imam Abdul Rafa or Imam Majid or Sheikh Abdul Rafa can give you a fatwa on this. I cannot. Okay, moving on. We talked about, again, a woman that is excused during her period. The last two are extremely important. A woman in her pregnancy or a woman who is breastfeeding. Okay? These are extremely important. Actually, the fuqaha allow them to break. Okay? There's a little detail here as well. Some of them, they say that basically a woman who is pregnant, but she's in very good physical shape, and she is able to do it, then she shouldn't break her fast. Who determines that? A lot of times is that if you know yourself, like a woman that has had pregnancies before and she understands that she gets tired, that she shouldn't fast from the beginning. She's allowed to break her fast. Someone who doesn't know, or things change. They had the first pregnancy, mashallah, they were all good, no problems, they fasted and so forth. But there comes the second pregnancy and they're having differences. So she can break at that point. And again, the best thing is, like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells in the Quran in multiple places actually, it says, فَاسْأَلُوا أَهْلَ الذِّكْرِ إِن كُنْتُمْ لَا تَعْلَمُونَ. Go and ask the people of knowledge if you do not know. And in this case, the people of knowledge is not only the people of fiqh, like ulama, scholars, like the scholars of fiqh, but you can ask a doctor. Because this is a medical opinion. Is it going to be something that's harming me or not, as a pregnant woman? So if I'm a pregnant woman and the doctor says you have to break your fast, but this doctor had to understand again, it's best to ask a Muslim doctor that understands these things. Why? Because sometimes a non-Muslim doctor might not understand the obligation on it, so it's easier for them to say, I'm going to stay on the safe side, you just break your fast. But even if that's the case, right, you can break your fast because this is a rukhsa Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us, then we can do it. Similar is the breastfeeding piece as well, which is the same idea as well. But breastfeeding at that point is, there might be, in pregnancy and breastfeeding, the harm might be on you as a pregnant woman, right? But it also might be on the child that you're bearing. So it's important to understand, again, because your sisters, your wives, they can be asking these questions and for you to know. So both of them are excused to break their fast. Pregnant women, as well as those who are breastfeeding, because it might impact their supply of milk for their children and becomes important. I want to say something again, I'm sorry, if you don't mind. It's a side note, because I see our younger kids as well, or younger adults as well here. There's something beautiful, 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 beautiful in our deen here, okay? Sometimes we talk about these things, right? Like about the days with tahara, right? Breastfeeding, things along these lines. Some people say it's a taboo, not alhamdulillah in our, but some people, you want to, like, it's something that's refrained from. Our ulama, they always say, la haya fi din. So this, in learning our religion, okay, we need to ask things clearly and directly, and even if there's a quote-unquote something that is a taboo. Because if you don't ask, you don't know. Okay? So there's nothing such as a taboo thing when asking to learn about your religion. Okay? Because we talk about some of these things for our younger kids, like, might not be very clear, and we talk about purity, menstruation, things along these lines. There's nothing taboo when you learn about your deen. Nothing. So feel free, and there's no, again, la haya fi din, like they shouldn't be like taboo or something that holds you back when you're asking to learn about your deen. Any other questions before I move to the next one?
Just when you're traveling, the days that you do miss, you're still obligated to make them up.
Yeah, we'll come to this later, but that's a good point. Yeah, how can you make up this fast? We'll come to it, inshallah. Okay, next. Intention, please.
Regarding the illness, chronic illness, they have to make up, suppose...
No, well, the whole makeup section, how to make up your fast, coming later. Okay, but all I just said right now is you can break your fast. I didn't talk yet about how can you make up your fast that you break. Okay, coming next, inshallah. Intention, that's extremely important. We talked about it from the beginning, right? You have to have the intention of this. Intention is an act of the heart. It's something that you intend. I might not see it with my own eyes. Okay? And the scholars do not obligate, or they say that you have to explicitly say it either. It's literally an act of the heart. So the intention is extremely important, but you need to know in your heart that you're doing it. It has to be with these two things, with clarity and certainty. Here we're talking specifically about Ramadan, because this is an obligation. Clarity and certainty, what does that mean? Clarity, as I mentioned, like I need to clearly understand what I'm doing the intention for. I said, I'm doing an intention in my heart to fast the month of Ramadan that starts tomorrow. If that's your intention. Clear. Okay? Certainty is like, I might fast if I feel okay, if I'm not too tired. That's not certainty. Certainty is you have to say, I am fasting tomorrow in your heart. I'm fasting tomorrow, the month of Ramadan. Clarity and certainty. Because why it's clarity as well? You might be thinking, I said, some people want to fast Mondays and Thursdays. That's not the obligation fast. So the clear intention is, what am I fasting? And the certainty piece is, I'm fasting for sure, not wishy-washy. This is an extremely important question, or extremely important point. If you have any questions, let me know. But that's extremely important, because that's what starts the fast or invalidates everything afterwards as well. Okay. The scholars talk about this notion of tabiit an-niyya, that you need to have the intention for fasting before the fasting time starts. Before the fasting time. So they say the fasting time starts at Fajr. You need to have your niyyah before then. And that's an extremely important one as well. They all talk about this notion when it comes to Ramadan. I'm being very specific. When it comes to Ramadan, they all talk about the notion that you have to have the intention before the beginning of the fast. Okay? So let's say, for whatever reason, you missed the announcement, you don't know the date, you woke up and it's actually Ramadan. And it's like post-Fajr time. unfortunately, you have to make up this day. You have to make up this day. Because Ramadan is different than something else. Intention is a must. Is this point clear? I can't emphasize anymore. Good? When do I take the intention? Only the Maliki school, and Imam Majid, before I planned for this, I talked to him and he told me, you need to tell the community, because this is what the ifta is in Adams. Like this, if someone goes to ask Imam Majid, he's going to tell him that. Okay? So I'm taking this not directly from me. But Imam Malik's opinion is that you can take the intention for the fast of the whole month of Ramadan once. So right before the day of Ramadan, we said, I take the intention in my heart to say, I am fasting this whole month, inshallah. That suffices. However, the recommendation is, which is the next point, is it's better that you renew your intention for every day. It's better to renew the intention, because there's other schools that actually obligate it. But I said, because I asked, imagine I said, like, this is what we tell the community, and our community follows this method, like, or this gets fatwa, that you can take the intention in the beginning of Ramadan. That also gives you, I said, it's better to have the intention every day, but also gives you the comfort that one day if you forget it, inshallah you're covered. Okay? So that's what I was telling you. It's beautiful to get the intention every day to remind yourself. There's an inner dimension to it as well. Right? You're consistently and continuously re-engaging in this act of worship. You're consistently and repeatedly, right, kind of renewing your oath with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Like, Ya Allah, I'm fulfilling my obligation. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. But let's say one day you forgot, look, I did not take an explicit intention. Don't let the shaitan play with you games. The shaitan can come to you and say, oh, you see, you missed this one, you need to break. The shaitan has this wiswas. He wants to kind of take us away from the actual focusing on the act of worship, to take us away to think about trivial, or side issues, not trivial, but side issues that might not be part of it. So, taking this opinion that you can take the intention just once in the month gives you this comfort, inshallah. Okay? It's good to renew. And renewal can be, as I put this, as I said, if you wake up for suhoor, or you do the suhoor before you go to sleep even, that by itself is sufficient for an intention. Right? You just have suhoor. This is by itself sufficient for attention. So that's as simple. The intention is not something I don't have to overthink it. It's not something that I have to... No, it's simple, alhamdulillah. It's very simple. It's a thought that you come in your mind and your heart. So I'm fasting. That's it. I'm fasting the month of Ramadan. Don't overthink it. That's the purpose of this. It's important, but don't overthink it. Any questions here? So, there's two questions in one, okay? The first one is you took an intention in the beginning of the month of Ramadan, right? And then you're fine. Yes. And then, by the way, before you go to sleep, you didn't wake up for suhoor, but you just prayed the Taraweeh or you prayed the Isha and I said, I'm going to sleep. But in your mind and your heart, you already know the intention. So that takes the question of intention out. Intention is already there. If you don't wake up for suhoor, of course. Suhoor is an indication, but it's not a must. So if you don't wake up for suhoor, your intention is already intact because you took it originally. As I said, in the beginning of the month, you're good. Clear? Please.
You wake up for suhoor, read suhoor, but what time must you no longer be eating?
Good, I'll come to that as well. Good question. We're done with the intention. Suhoor. Directly to your question. So, first of all, is suhoor obligatory? You can read the slide or not. What do you think? It's not obligatory. It's a very highly recommended sunnah. Highly recommended sunnah. And Allah, every single time I see that, really, it should touch our heart. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes things easy for us. Wants to make things easy for us. To the extent that something that benefits you and I, so that we don't feel the extra hunger or the extra thirst, says like, I'll make it even, a sunnah, that you're going to wake up and you're going to eat extra, maybe late. And not only that, you're going to satisfy yourself, alhamdulillah, and you're going to take thawab for it. How beautiful is that? As human beings, sometimes we can do this intellectually. Say, you know what? I'm going to fast tomorrow. I'd rather eat, right? I want to make sure that But Allah is telling you that you eat and you take hasanat. How beautiful is that? That's something should touch our heart. It's like, I always say, مَا يُرِيدُ اللَّهُ بِكُمُ الْيُسْرِ وَلَا يُرِيدُ بِكُمُ الْعُسْرِ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants to make things easy for us and does not want to make things hard for us. They talk about that there's a Sahabi at the time of Prophet ﷺ that during his fast, he would stand in the middle of like the road or like the desert basically where the sun is on. So what are you doing with that? He said, I want to make it hard for you. He's like, I want Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to see that I'm strong in my... No. Allah does not need that from you. As a matter of fact, none of these acts of worship is something that Allah needs from us. It's for us to be better. It's for us to build our relation with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It benefits us and us only. And therefore, this is one of these acts of worship that is extremely beautiful when you think about it. Because it helps you not feel hunger and thirst. Yet when you do it, and it's explicit, it's like, you take more ajr, you take more thawab, you take more hasanat for it. Beautiful. So this is a highly recommended sunnah. And Rasulullah said, تَسَحَّرُوا فَإِنَّ فِي السَّحُورِ بَرَكَةً. There's actually barakah, there's abundance. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you might have something small, even a sip of water, and it can sustain you the rest of the day. There's barakah. There's some stuff that we cannot explain, generally speaking, just with pure science. Okay? This notion of barakah is one of these most beautiful concepts that we have in our deen. Okay? So this is one of them. Barakah is this abundance that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would make something small, okay, have a much bigger impact than this small thing. Okay? Sometimes, again, to make it easier for my children at least, right? To kind of, barakah can be, you and I, okay, let me think about this for a second. Okay, can have younger. So you and I want to go and buy let's say TV. Okay? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, okay, gave you from rizq $500 and gave me $500. It's the same exact TV. I just happened that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave me this. The idea is like, I went to Costco and I found this. I have 500. Allah has given me. I found this TV at Costco. I was like, wow, I'll buy it. $500, I'll just buy it. My brother here got the same exact $500. He goes to Costco the next day and they have a sale. And it's $250. His $500, and this is very like raw example, just to make something that is more spiritual in meaning that just simple for us. His $500 bought him the same exact thing that I have. Maybe Allah, in that sense, gave him more barakah in the same exact amount of money. He's able to buy the same exact thing I was able to buy for 500. His money has more barakah, he had 250. And not only that, but I took another 50 out of it and said, you know what, man, this is a great deal. Actually, the rest of the money, I'll go for sadaqah. So his money bought him what I bought, but also he got an extra thawab for giving this thing. That's a form of barakah. That's not the explicit meaning of barakah. Barakah is something smaller. So Allah gives you more abundance in it. You sometimes see it as well in the month of Ramadan beautifully, where you invite some people, especially again if you don't go extravagant on your invitations, right? A small plate of food that you'd usually eat by yourself, okay, can sustain 2 people. That's a barakah. That's a barakah. Okay? Sometimes it goes for 3 and you're all satisfied. SubhanAllah. Same exact. I said, man, SubhanAllah, I ate that yesterday by myself. But today, 3 of us are eating it and we're fine. Barakah. Barakah. So that's the concept of barakah in a very simple way. It is recommended also to delay your suhoor. Same exact notion. You delay your suhoor, why? It's for you and I, right? To delay the suhoor is so they can get as close as it gets to the Fajr time so you can get more full at that time. That's part of the sunnah of Rasulullah ﷺ to delay the suhoor. Okay. The last one is, which is your question. When do I stop my suhoor? When do I stop eating? Okay. Whenever there's a recommendation and there's a kind of like a kind of a hard line. The hard line is Fajr. The hard line is Fajr time. Okay, that's the hard line. So you should be stopping right before the Fajr time. Okay? That's the hard line. Currently, the way we, everywhere else, in this place and everywhere around the world, for the most part right now, we use calculations to do that, right? So a lot of times we know, quote unquote, the time for Fajr to be specific hour, minute, right? It's not like around that time. It's like 5:21, 5:20. Please, please, please don't do that. Don't wait till the last minute where you come into Fajr at 5:20, I'm going to stop eating 5:19. If you do that, you're fine, by the way. But please don't do that. Try your best to give yourself some room. Okay? Some of the scholars talk about the miqdar 50 ayah. So they say around like the amount of time that you would take to read around 50 verses. Okay? So it can be 5 minutes, it can be 10 minutes. But please don't wait till the last minute. Okay? But I'm saying, it's like if you happen to be eating, okay, and it's like, I put this, and I said, al-Fajr timer just came in, right? Some scholars even say, you can just finish what you're eating. They just don't keep on going. Did I say something wrong? Good. They say that, I'll tell you what. They say that because I know this. If you have something in your mouth, and it's like, Allahu Akbar, and you hear it. You sometimes say at home, or you know the exact minute, right? Some say just finish it. Okay? But doesn't mean finish it, does not mean what? Okay, let me finish my plate, or let me just take my sweet time. Oh, so nice, I love it. No, literally, they just do it. And some say just take it out, to stay out of this like whole thing. But that's why it's like if you stay till the last minute, you're really putting yourself on the edge. But fiqhan, meaning like from a fiqh perspective, it's this exact time, the hard line is Fajr. You go post-Fajr, you broke your fast. Okay? So don't wait till the last minute. No, it's a recommendation from the some madhab. I've heard that before. Again, it's plus from someone who's Shafi'i. They say that there's like back then that there's a notion of like 2 adhans. Okay, and it still happens in a lot of Muslim countries. Like they have an adhan to kind of they call it imsak to let you know like it's almost time. And this is based on the locality. Sometimes it's 20 minutes before Fajr. Sometimes it's 30 minutes before. They just to give you a heads up, basically. Hey, you're coming close. But there's no explicit saying that you have to stop at that point from what I've read. If you know something else, if someone is from what I read, there's no explicit. It said the had, the hard line is Fajr time. The recommendation is start before that, please. Okay? Don't wait till the last minute. Does it answer your question? Good. Any more questions about sahur? Noor, how am I doing with time? Where's Noor? Okay. Iftar. Okay. We're all going to have iftar. The recommendation here, in this, like, it's highly recommended to break your fast as soon as Maghrib time comes in. So don't delay breaking your fast. As much as the recommendation to, like, delay your suhoor, it is also an equal recommendation to break your fast, right, when Maghrib time comes in. But this is extremely important to say when Maghrib time comes in. It has to be confirmed. And I actually have a couple of stories that there's real life stories. In one community, okay, they had like, they usually hand out like a calendar, a Ramadan calendar, the times of the salah and stuff like that. A community would take this. They, unfortunately, put the time of Maghrib for DC, okay, which is different sometimes a minute or two. And people who were following their calendar, they were breaking their fast a minute or two before Maghrib time. I want you to be please careful, make sure that you're again. These calendars sometimes are not like the end all. The applications that we have are not the end all. One that's really important that is not the end all is the actual astronomical, if you go and say, what is sunset time on Google or Bing? Why? Because their definition of this, not like the way they define it, is that at least half the orb of the sun goes beyond the horizon. That's their definition. That's not our definition. Our definition, from a fiqh perspective, of sunset is the full orb of the sun. The full sun goes beyond the horizon. Imagine, and you can see here, this is the table, right? Imagine this is the sun going down, okay? As long as you see the sun, it's not Maghrib time, right? So it's right here. If you can see it in the front. Can you see it? It's right here. That's sometimes when they put it, like when you go and say, what is sunset time? Sometimes they put it as such. It's the time where at least half the sun went beyond the horizon. For us, it's not. It's the full orb of the sun. Okay? So you have to make sure that Maghrib time comes in. But once you are confident Maghrib time comes in, don't delay. The sunnah is just to break your fast directly. Okay? Don't. Because some people used to take like 30 minutes after. Someone's like, let me wait. It happens. Don't. Do not. The sunnah is break your fast as soon as Maghrib time comes in. Another anecdote, this is a real story I heard also from a sheikh, I'm not going to name names. He's saying that he was in his masjid in El Paso, Texas, and I think they have like above, he was sitting on top of the masjid somewhere, like there's a roof or something, and he was like just enjoying the sunset right before, and he's seeing the sun go like this beautiful scene, and it's just going down, 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 down. He said it was literally like, again, almost there, but still he can physically see the sun, and he can see in the masjid, here in the masjid, the mu'adhin makes the adhan. Allahu Akbar, Allah Akbar. That's a problem. And he says, I left the roof. This is, I heard that directly from him. He said, I left the roof, ran downstairs, says, hold on. Right? It does make this, again, it's like 30 minutes, but 30 seconds, maybe 1 minute. Don't put yourself in this situation as well. So I want to make sure, when I say confirm Maghrib time, it's clear. Because these are real life examples. Please. If you follow Adam's calendar, okay, sometimes Adam does mistakes. I want you to check before you follow Adam's calendars. I say, no, I'm Adam's member, right? I'm here giving it Adam's. But I've seen it happen before. Not often, but. A lot of times Adam's calendar is beyond 1 or 2 minutes. They add it to the app, right? And that's what I've seen, at least recently. For the past years that I've checked, the app would say something and they would add a minute or two, which is safe. So just check maybe the first couple of days or something like that. I'm not saying don't have faith in it. It's like, mashallah. But we just humans do mistakes. And it does happen that a community like that did a mistake before. The mistake unfortunately impacted others. Right? But yes, for the most part, again, we do our best in Adams to make sure that the calendar is 100% correct. But again, I don't want to, again, the other thing, remember I told, don't make the shaitan play games with you. This notion of waswas is extremely important. Like, if I, again, checked it, like you just went through it and said, oh, it's fine, right? Then go, follow Adam's calendar, there's no question. But don't let the shaitan play games with you, because the shaitan comes, oh, is it really? And then you get into the habit of, I have to double check and triple check and quadruple check. Don't do that. It's easier than that. We're saying, we're giving you an idea. Like there's a balance. I'm saying you have to be confident that it is, okay? And then move on. But just don't overthink it. You have a question.
One area I've seen a lot of discrepancy with the Shias, they almost wait till Isha to break their...
Yeah.
I don't know if you can just give one comment on
I'm not my madhab, so I don't know. Yeah. No, I know, but I know for a fact. They go, this is like, it's like, this isn't, I'm not going to go there. I read about it, but I'm not fluent in this topic. But understand what I'm saying. And that's why we're following this. All the madhab are like this. There's nothing else. Or our like Sunni madhab are as such, and that's what we follow.
It's one thing to see the sun, it's another thing for there to still be a little bit of light from the sun, like, what you're talking about. Maghrib, we can still have some light in the sky. It's not
100%, and that's what I'm saying. I mentioned it very clearly. It's a very good point. I said it's the orb of the sun. You have to, like the physical sun. If it goes down in the horizon, you don't see it, that's Maghrib. During that time, it's actually lit outside a little bit. Okay? But that's a good point, actually. You make a good point. Why it's a good point? Let's say you go somewhere where you don't know what the time is for Maghrib. It happens. Traveling, you're somewhere, you don't know. You might know relatively what it is, so you're going to have to follow your eyes, right? At that some point, is it Maghrib time? Is it Maghrib time? So some of this stuff is like fashtahid. Like at this point, do your best. You're not obliged to go beyond what your best is. So if I go outside and I don't feel comfortable, I see again, I'm not someone who is used to seeing or looking at the sun and understanding what the sky looks like exactly at the time of Maghrib, right? Your best bet is they're doing something again. Don't follow up with them. Right? They're doing something else. Inshallah, they're helping get some shares. So maybe just focus with me for a second on this one. Because it does happen. It happened to me personally multiple times. I am on the road somewhere. I gave you the example of Washington, D.C. versus here. There's a slight difference, right? So if you know something, again, be on the safe side on this one. If you're not 100% sure or confident, You can delay 2 or 3 or 4 minutes depending on where your locality is, but just be on the safe side. But just don't overthink it. I just said, I don't want you to go and stay for 15 minutes after Salah. I was like, no, that's not the purpose of my discussion here. The purpose is just be confident, make sure it is, move on. Okay, breaking your fast. It's recommended to break your fast before Salah. Okay, and this is one of the, I would say, most misunderstood pieces. So it's recommended from the Sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He used to break his fast before Salah. Break his fast does not mean, does not mean I'm going to have to have the full meal before Salah. Okay? You can break your fast by, and the recommendation is you can break your fast using water. As a matter of fact, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam used to say, break his fast in rutab. Rutab is this still kind of moist dates. It's not fully dehydrated yet. Okay? That's rutab. Good? So that's one. So you don't have that. He used to go on what we call, like, again, the tamr, which is more dried fruit. Okay? And he said if he doesn't have that, he would break his fast, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, on water. Okay? So following in his sunnah, please do that. Some of us, again, I don't know this, again, from family members, sometimes they won't take a date because maybe they have diabetes and, like, it's not good for their sugar levels and stuff like that. That's fine. You still have water, which is neutral, so you can break your fast on water. But breaking the fast means what? Literally breaking the fast. You can eat something simple, small. That doesn't mean you have to finish your whole meal before Salah. Because a lot of times when you do that, you're actually delaying the time of Maghrib, and this is completely not recommended. Okay? So in Adams, we follow a good, alhamdulillah rabbil alameen, a good standard here. They say, Iqamah time is 10 minutes after Adhan. That's pretty good. If you're at home, you follow the same kind of like timing, that's great. Just don't keep on delaying it. Especially Maghrib, and I said I'm a little sensitive on this one. Especially Maghrib, the time for it is very short. Especially if you follow the Maliki madhab, it's extremely short. So please, 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 Ramadan or outside Ramadan, be very careful or be very cognizant about your Maghrib time. It's very short, so please pray your Maghrib time at least the beginning of time. I know you said 10 minutes after, that's great. Okay? If you follow this, like this timing, that would be amazing, inshallah. Break your fast and go on. Okay. And then there's a recommended dua at the time of iftar. There's the general dua that comes from the sunnah. Allahumma inni laka sumtu ala rizqika aftart. And this is, by the way, this piece. Allahumma inni laka sumtu ala rizqika aftart. Oh Allah, to you I have fasted, and by your provision I have broken my fast. This is sufficient, and this is most of the kutub, like the books of ahadith, narrate this as the kind of authentic narration about Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. There's more that add to it. Allahumma inni laka sumtu ala rizqika aftart wa alayka tawakkaltu bika amant dhahaba adh-dhamma wa abtalat al-'uruq wa thabatat al-ajr inshallah. There's more to it than this. If you know it, that's great. If you don't, I said I gave you one that is simple. Allahumma inni laka sumtu. Oh, to you, Allah, I have fasted. وَعَلَى رِزْقِكَ أَفْتَرْتُ. And by your provision, I have broken my fast. That is sufficient. There's another thing as well. They said that there's, at the time when you're breaking your fast, a dua that you make is inshallah accepted as well. So go over beyond that. You do that, but you go beyond that. Ask for yourself, for your family, for your anything that you want from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Inshallah subhanahu wa ta'ala accepts during that time because you have just completed an act of worship. And completing an act of worship, Allah gives you even more at that time. I'll have to move on and make up for, like, this is an important one as well. On the makeup of a missed fast. So there are multiple questions that came here. Okay. There are 3 different ways of making up fast. 3 different ways. The vast majority of the ones that we were talking about thus far has to do if you break your fast due, as I call it, due to a valid reason. You're obliged to, for the most part, you're obliged to make up this fast. Unless there's another reason that does not allow you to make up this fast. So let's give some valid reasons. We said, if I'm traveling, when I travel and I break my fast during the travel, as we mentioned, you make it up. So if I travel for 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, that means I have to make up for 3 days that I missed. Okay? That's one. Someone who is sick, but non-chronic disease. Someone who broke their fast because they had the flu or something during that time. Okay? Some people get migraines, really bad migraines, and they have to break their fast. That's fine. You have to make up this day some other day. So if you broke your fast for a valid reason, 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, whatever the number of days, you have to make up these days afterwards. Okay? That's the majority of the cases that we have. A valid reason that we talked about. A woman in her period, same exact thing, make up this fast. There's someone who has a chronic disease. They cannot fast, period. Okay? So you're not obliged to make up the fast. Someone, as we mentioned earlier as well, of an old age where this becomes extremely exhaustive for them. They're not obliged to fast at that point. What are they supposed to do? It's called fidyah. They gotta give out money, or like food, as a matter of fact, okay, to it'am, to feed someone else. Okay? To feed someone else. Alhamdulillah, in Adams, we have a program, I guess, here to iftar as-sa'im, like to give out food for those who are fasting, right? And you can go towards this, or other program that you know of, that you can give out towards this. If you know it from the beginning, again, some people know. Again, I said a pregnant woman, okay, might not be, or like we'll come to the pregnant woman in a second maybe. That's a specific one. Let's say someone who is chronically, as we mentioned, chronically ill. They know they're not going to fast the month of Ramadan, right? You can give out this fidyah ahead of time. Okay. I'll talk, before I come to the kaffara, I'll talk about the case of a pregnant woman or a breastfeeding woman. It's important. The scholars, as a matter of fact, they say, for this, during time of pregnancy, she missed full Ramadan, right? The recommendation is that you make up your fast afterwards. You make up your fast afterwards, okay? Let's say she was pregnant, and then moving forward afterwards, she is breastfeeding. So she might go for 2 Ramadans without doing it. They still say, the vast majority of them, that you still make up your fast afterwards. So after you're done with this, make up your fast. Some of them have a distinguishing factor. They said, okay, if she broke the fast because of fear on herself, or is it because of fear on her child? Okay? And in this distinguishing factor, they say, then they need to not only make up the fast, but also pay the fidyah. Pay the fidyah, which is it'am. But it'am is like for every day that you break your fast, you need to feed someone for that day. One person. Feed one person for that day. That's the fidyah. Is this one clear? You feed one person for that day. Okay? In the books of fiqh, they specify the amount of food and so forth, right? But we're not, for the simplicity right now, is like you need to feed the person for that day. So a woman, it's either, we said, she has to make up her fast. In some cases, they say she have to make it up, plus pay the fidyah. Okay? Alhamdulillah, we don't have any, again, sisters here. If there's a specific questions that you, again, your family has or something like that, you can go and ask. Again, we can ask afterwards, talk about it, but ask your Imam Maj, Sheikh Abdul Rafa, or someone else to get you specific fatwa for your case, for your situation. Okay? But this is general. Okay. Last but not least is the kaffara. That's a big one. All of the madhahib, they say one of the things that you break your fast, we said, what do you remember? The first definition of fasting, you said you cannot eat, drink, or have a sexual intercourse. This is for married people, of course. If you do the third one, when you have a sexual intercourse, all of them require that you make this kaffara. The kaffara is something that is like, it's a way of reprimanding. Someone intentionally engages in this act during the month of Ramadan, knowing that it's forbidden. Not only does it break their fast, that they have to make up the fast afterwards, but they have to do this kaffara. The kaffara has 3 levels. What is applicable for us in this time and age, right, is the first one, which is you have to fast 60 days continuously. That's how harsh this is. If you intentionally break your fast through this act of sexual intercourse, it's intentionally 60 days continuously. If you break it, like say 35 days in it, and you feel it, and you break it, like you have to make it up the 60 days from the beginning. That's how tough this is. For whatever reason, someone with a chronic disease, they can't do the 60 days. Then they have to give out the ta'am for 60 people as well. Let me just add to this to tell you how grave this is. That's for every day. That's for every day. So someone breaks their fast twice, 3 times, every day you have the same. So you have to, for every day, 2 months of fast. That's the majority opinion. Okay? Some others add to it, but not the majority. Some others, like Imam Malik rahimahullah, they add to it, they said, if you break your fast intentionally with other acts, like eating intentionally. Imam Malik says you have to do that as well. you have to make up this fast 60 days. Okay? I'm giving you why this, because we don't take the obligations of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala lightly. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us something, we need to follow. We are servants of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And when He says that you do this, we say, سَمِعْنَا وَأَطَعْنَا. Oh Allah, we listen and we follow. So that's why this is a grave act. When you go against explicitly, again, I'm keep on intentionally explicit. I keep on repeating this. Because there's some cases where it might not be intentional or explicit. That's something else. That's something else. Does not go under the kafara. Okay? For instance, we know that for a fact. If, again, and that's majority opinion as well. If you eat unintentionally, forgetfully, like you're forgetting and you just ate, that doesn't break your fast. You continue on. But someone, that's actually a case like this as well. Someone thought that it's still time, not time for Fajr. They still have some time. They woke up late, look at their watch, and they somehow saw it mistakenly or not knowingly what the time for Fajr is. Oh, I still have a little bit of time. So let me go ahead and eat. Just to hold. I have some more time before Fajr. That's their intention. That's what they think. But in reality, Fajr already is in. And they start eating. And then later they realized that they ate post-Fajr. This deed is invalidated. They have to make up this day. Even if they continue their Fajr, they have to make up this day. Because they ate after Fajr. In that case, what? Unintentionally. They didn't do it knowingly that it's time for Maghrib, it's post-Fajr, but I'm going to eat. That's separate things. When you do something intentionally, has a different ruling than something unintentional. In one of them, you have to make up your fast just by fasting another day. The other one, you might have to go up to like 60 days of fast directly, back to back. Extremely important piece. If you have specific questions after this on this one, we'll take it afterwards. Okay, I'll go very quickly on this. Part of it, and that's what I'm saying, it's not just Taraweeh. Okay, it's a very recommended, highly recommended sunnah. The Sahaba, radwanullah alayhim, again, the majority, they agreed that it's 20 rak'ahs. Okay, but I know there's some other places they would do 8 rak'ahs. That's fine as well. But the vast majority of the Sahaba, I don't say the vast majority, the Sahaba agreed that it was 20 rak'ahs at that time, the time of Umar radiallahu anhu. They used to pray 20 rak'ahs. Okay, but you can pray 8 rak'ahs. That's fine as well. It's a recommended act of worship, and I highly recommend that you would do it. Okay. As far as I know, with the exception of Malik radiallahu anhu, that is recommended actually do it in the masjid. And even in Madhab Malik, they say someone has to do it in the masjid. Someone has to do it. So it has to be done in the masjid. There has to be a jama'ah that do it. But if they have enough people doing it in the masjid, they recommend that you do it at home then. Once you have enough people doing it in the masjid. The point here I'm trying to make is, please, for our situation, it's good, it's great, as a matter of fact, for us all as families and to come to the masjid and engage in this act of worship. If you feel slightly sick, this is extremely important as well. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, is Rahim, is Kareem, is merciful, is generous. Right? If you have the intention to come to the masjid to pray this salah, but you feel slightly sick, because of your intention is not to harm others, Allah will give you the same reward, if not more. So if you feel a little sick, don't make it, it's like, I'm going to go to the masjid, it's Ramadan. It's Ramadan, you can pray it at home. And inshallah, by the mercy of Allah, generosity of Allah, you get the same reward, if not more, because you were thoughtful of others around you that you don't want to harm them as well. So that's something to keep in mind. I'tikaf. I'tikaf is the acts of worship where you take the clear intention of dedicating my time in the masjid for worship. That's what i'tikaf means. A lot of times it's recommended to do it in the last 10 nights of Ramadan, okay? But you can do it from the beginning of Ramadan if you want. But again, our work schedule a lot of times does not allow us. What's the minimum amount of i'tikaf? It can be literally for a time of prayer. Say, go inside the masjid and have a niyyah, an intention of, I'm doing i'tikaf right now. For this next 20, 30, 40 minutes, I'm going to sit down, read my Quran, and do the niyyah of i'tikaf. Inshallah, the scholar said, it's not me who's saying that. He said, there's no minimum of that sign. If you take the niyyah, the intention, that I'm doing i'tikaf, spending my time, dedicating my time for the act of worship, inshallah you get it. But I said the recommendation or the sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, at least the last 10 nights of Ramadan that you did. Okay. Last but not least is zakatul fitr. The vast majority opinion on this one, zakat al-fitr is wajib, is an obligatory. Okay? Zakat al-fitr is wajib, obligatory. That's the majority opinion on this one. And Adams usually announces how much it is. I think last year it was around $12 per person. So if you are a father or a husband, okay, that you pay for yourself and everyone who is dependent on you as well. So all your children, right? If your wife doesn't have a source of income as well, you pay for her as well, okay? To the extent that they say if a woman is pregnant, even you pay on the child that is in her womb, okay? And it's a minimal amount as well. Someone who does not have this amount of money, someone they're not obliged to do it, like the zakat, same exact thing. But this one is a very small one, right? The very small one. So if someone who is in a dire need that they're not able to pay the $10, $12 or whatever it is, that's fine. I know there's not schools of thought, but what we do in Adams, but in a lot of other places around the Muslim world and here in the US, is that you give it out in the form of money, okay? Because you're going to hear this, it's not just money. The scholars, they say sometimes that you have to give it out as food. It's not sustainable in the US, I can guarantee you that. They tried it multiple times in the past where people come and give rice and again, it does not fulfill it might fulfill the requirement from a fiqh perspective that you give it out, okay? But sometimes the purpose is to feed the poor, and the poor, when you give them rice, they might not have even the stove to cook the rice. Therefore, the vast majority of scholars now, they say just give it out as money. And let them, again, get a meal with it or something like that, right? Okay, I'll stop here. Noor, where am I doing? Or anyone can give me time. Can you give me 10 more minutes or? Okay, good. Any more questions before I go on something extremely important? That was what I was supposed to cover, and I did, alhamdulillah.
So if someone's on like a higher level and someone's on a lower level, like if you're at the top of an apartment and someone's in the bottom of an apartment, the person at the top sees the sunset, he can see the sunset for a bit longer than the person at the bottom, right? So what do you do in that sort of situation?
I don't know. Yeah. No, I remember it's like, I do not know. But and that's why it's good. It's good to follow, right, your locality, meaning that's why I'm saying that follow this locality, the location, right? Because what the scholars would do, right, this is, unless, for instance, you live in a hilly area, right, like Denver, okay? Denver is like the 1,000-mile, the mile high city. So it's high, but the whole city is like that, okay? But if there's something that is an exception, the exception does not overrule everything else. So someone is on top of a mountain somewhere, the vast majority of people on the bottom, you just break your fast on this, okay? But the very specific one for this specific person who's standing there on top of the mountain, I do not know. Okay? Please.
One, can you just mention if the bleed accidentally or we vomit, if that affects our fast?
Okay. The vomit that breaks your fast is the one that was intentionally done. If you intentionally vomit, that breaks your fast. Okay? If you unintentionally do it, it does not break your fast. Okay? Same thing for bleeding. So the bleeding is unintentional anyways, because there's another form of bleeding that, the hijama, like cupping, the way you go and it's like, actually in some scholars they don't recommend it. They say even this does not invalidate your fast. Okay? But the Hanabila, they said don't do it, actually invalidates it. Only the Hanabila said it invalidates your fast. So because you asked two, vomit and bleeding. Most of us don't do any cupping here. It's like, okay, so don't do it if you do it, again, during the month of Ramadan. But again, in both cases, involuntary bleeding or vomiting does not invalidate.
Is our interaction with our spouses during Ramadan, other than the forbidden part, okay? Like to basic stuff, or is it better to... Good question. That's actually, the scholar says, they talk about this as well. Okay, so you're going out for salah, you're going out for work, and you give her a hug, that's fine. You give her a kiss on the cheek, that's all fine, right? What they say is, you have to know your limits. And that's why it's dependent. I didn't talk about it, because it depended on the person. Some people, right, they would say that you're not allowed, and this is a fatwa, meaning that you have to get a specific thing for your specific case. You're not allowed to kiss, hug, just normal,
you're not allowed, because you know that this person cannot, again, they can't stop themselves beyond that. Or it moves something from the shahwa, from the, what's the shahwa? The desires in their heart. Then better for them to avoid it. Does it break their fast? No. What breaks your fast, by the way, is if you do this and it leads for a man to an actual excretion of something from their male part. That actually invalidates the fast. But it's not the same level as engaging in the act. You have to make up this day, by the way. If it leads, this act, again, you go and for whatever reason, you're engaging again in like you're hugging your wife or you're kissing or something like that, and it leads somehow to an actual ejaculation, that's actually invalidates the fast, and you have to make up this day. Okay. Please.
The event of insulin injection, like underneath the skin, and nothing ingested through the mouth, is that allowed during Ramadan and during fasting?
As far as I know, it's before you start your fast. As far as I know, it's before you start your fast. And you have again, if someone is in that need, because what they say is you are able to take needles, injections, that does not invalidate your fast. There's a lot of like a medicine that's through a needle, but they exclude out of this are things that actually can be considered as a form of sustenance. Right? So you take a vitamin shot. No. Because that's considered sustenance. So they exclude that as something that would break your fast. But if you have diabetes, you're actually not obliged to fast. Please.
Well, I was just saying that it's the intention of food. So if you're doing a vitamin, it's the infusion of fluid, that's fluid. I don't
Yes.
recommend anybody to do that.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. It's like they separate. They said it's something that someone takes a shot again for something else that is not considered a form of substance or something as such. Yes, that's no problem. And they say having a shot as such does not. Okay, please.
In the Shafi school, intramuscular, which is
Jazakumullah khair. There's again, they do the.
intravenous, is what is
Okay, Jazakumullah khair. And I said I don't know if they do the distinction between. I said what is sustenance or not.
yes. So intravenous is that which is sustainable.
Yeah.
So it breaks fast. Intramuscular to the muscles.
So the brother here makes a very important distinction. I did not know that. Right.
The point would be if you're taking an IV intravenous
Yes.
and you take a small amount of medicine, that's not sustenance. If you're taking 1 liter of fluid, that's almost sustenance.
Okay. Please.
You mentioned incense. What about aromatic salve that you put on your arm?
No problem. No. He said, this is a good one. I said, what aromatic stuff, the stuff that you put on your skin, and the body is gonna absorb it, right? They say there's no problem with that. They say it has to be as intravenous, right? Or something that's going through the body. They actually sometimes they make the distinction because it's not just food, something going from your nose, from your ears, from, again, the private parts, right? Like, again, there's some medicine that goes through the private, like the anus, for instance. That's not something that is allowed, that breaks your fast. Okay? So, but something that is topical, like some on top of your skin, the skin, there's no problem with that. Please.
You say stuff like intentional bleeding will break your fast, right? So, what is so how do I explain this? So, if you have pimples and you pop them, is that intentional bleeding?
No. And I didn't, I'm sorry, I said non-intentional, usually that's the case, right? But the intentional one, the only example I gave was the hijama, like the cupping piece. And I said, there's even that one, the majority of the schools, they say it does not invalidate your fast. So that does not invalidate your fast.
That breath from fasting is called halitosis. So is there any recommendations on what you can or cannot do to alleviate that, or just let it be? Like, can people rinse water and spit it out? Can they use any of these sprays? Anything that you can maybe
Okay, so they talk about like a swak, like something, a swak is like the way of cleaning your teeth, and it's, in this case we have like toothbrush and stuff like that. I read that one of the most beautiful fatwas about this, it said this is one that each one of us, so you can ask the question, but each one of us is their own mufti, their own person. Like you are the one who is looking at yourself and knowing it. So the majority of the schools, they allow you to do this cleaning of your teeth with the suwak, even if it's moist suwak, which is our scholars now, they take to say that is good, that's fine if you brush your teeth the way that we brush our teeth. But they put stipulations there. The only exception, by the way, is the Shafi'is. The Shafi'is say you can do that pre-zawal, pre-dhuhr. You can brush your teeth or clean your teeth before dhuhr. After dhuhr, don't do it. Why? Because there's a hadith that says, لَخَلُوفُ فَمِ الصَّائِمِ أَحَبُّ إِلَى اللَّهِ مِنْ رَيْحِ الْمِسْكِ, said that the bad smell that comes out of the mouth of the person who is fasting, okay, is more beloved to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala than the smell, the scent of misk, a beautiful scent. So they said, if that's the case, that's actually a part of the intention, that's why not. Then that's part of your fasting. It's something that people might not like, but it's part of it. But that's the fatwa that they said. It said what? When you brush your teeth or you do something as such, they said it does not invalidate. What invalidates, if this reaches your, what do you call it? Like al-halq, what is it? Like what is it? You cut your throat, right? That's what invalidates. And that's why I do not know. You know, right? It said if this, and the sounds like, even they said, you take something through your nose, and you feel it in sometimes your throat. You can feel the taste in your throat. It invalidates. So that's why they're saying, be careful. All I'm saying is does not invalidate, so you can do it. Just be careful. Okay? And the part of the makruhat is things that are not, again, it's actually hated or not hated is the right word, but the things that you shouldn't be doing is like excessive, like rinsing as well, even in wudu. So because it might lead to you getting something in there. So it said, be careful. And this is, you are your own mufti. You are the one who knows. No one else would know that because this goes into your throat. There's a question, your brother here. Yes. And yes. And just be careful. But yes, be careful to make sure that it shouldn't be, when we brush our teeth, it doesn't mean that it reaches our throat. I brush my teeth, I don't feel the taste in my throat, right? But if you're the person, because I understand this way, you might be one of these people that, when I brush my teeth, I feel, or like if I rinse or I do something, I actually feel it. Then don't do it. But if you're one of these people who do it like you can. And then again, it's just a nice trick. Actually, you can brush your teeth without toothpaste. Have you known that? You can actually, but actually literally, you can take the brush and brush your teeth without, I know it doesn't sound right, but you can. Okay? And it still cleans, by the way. Maybe not as clean, but it does clean. Okay, yes, please. Oh, good. 2 questions. Jazakallah khair for asking the question because you remind me of something. Did I say that you can pray Zakat al-Fitr anytime from the beginning of Ramadan till, did I say that? Okay, now I'm saying it again if I didn't say it. If I didn't say it, I'm saying it. If I said it, it's important. You can pay Zakat al-Fitr, okay? Zakat al-Fitr anytime from the beginning of Ramadan. You don't have to wait till the end of Ramadan to do it. As a matter of fact, I would actually recommend that please pay it early on. Why? Because we would love for it to reach the people who are in need before Eid. If you pay it right before the time of Salah, how is it going to reach? Even though again, you fulfilled your obligation if you give it out before the time, like the time of Salah. Usually that happens in Muslim countries or like a lot of people who are in need and you go on the way to your masjid, you find someone who's in need and you give him the money or you give him the meal. That's great. Here, it doesn't happen. Your other question is, can I pay it online? Yes, you can. Is it better to pay it in your locality? As a matter of fact, sometimes they say this is one of these zakawat that you want to do it in your locality. Okay? So don't have to go and pay, for instance, I come from Egypt, I'm not going to pay my zakat al-fitr in Egypt. I live in the US. I need to get it in the US. But you don't have to give it physically to the masjid or something. No. Does it answer your question? Good.
Did you say the nasal spray and eye drops, even if it's medicine, if it goes down your throat?
Yes. They even say eye drops or even ear drops. Anything that makes it in.
I heard that like when you're cooking a big meal for many people, so you can taste not swallow and just.
Yeah. They actually put it as a makruhat. There's things that you shouldn't be doing, but you can. It's a bit that does not invalidate your fast to taste the food, with your tongue, right? As long as it doesn't make it inside, we can see it as well to your throat, that's fine. They don't recommend it. But yes, you can do it. Yeah, Noor, I'm done. But I have to say one more thing before I go then. Then one more question, or Khalifa, I have to give you one thing before. Please. You see again? I didn't hear what I'm saying. You said you do what? But insult? You never insult anyone accidentally. Okay? That's the first thing they need to learn. Never happens accidentally. Okay? No, but I'm just kidding. I'll tell you something. I'm glad that you asked this question because it actually takes me to the next topic that I wanted to cover. And I'm going to just ask you for 5 minutes. I wish I could read this, but Imam al-Ghazali, rahimahullah, rahmatun wasi'ah, okay, the Ihya Ulumuddin, again, he's one of the most famous, again, scholars of our time, of our Islamic history, not our time, of our Islamic history, okay. When he talks about the siyam, he talks about what everything I just told you here, everything I talked about during that time, falls under this category. He categorizes the people who are fasting into 3 different categories. One of them is said this, the fast of the general public. Awam al-nas, the general public. And this is the fast that we have just talked about, by the way. Everything I told you was kind of the bare minimum that you should or you shouldn't do, right? Bare minimum. So every one of us should be at that level. This is literally the bare minimum. To have a valid siyam, you need to follow what we just talked about. Valid siyam. There is another level where he said this is siyam al-khawas. It's called the select few. And then there's the third level, where he said, this is siyam khawas al-khawas. He said these are the elite among the select few. Right? So this is a really high level. The general public one is the one that you fast from what we define there, like food, drink, either sexual intercourse. That's the general, that's the bare minimum as you mentioned. But that's not the intention, that's not the outcome of our salah, of siyam should not be as such. As a matter of fact, Rasulullah ﷺ said in a very famous hadith, he says, رُبَّ صَائِمْ لَيْسَ لَهُ مِنْ صِيَامِهُ إِلَّا الْجُوعَ وَالْعَطَشِ. Said, perhaps that there's a person who is fasting, and all they are getting out of their fast is nothing but just hunger and thirst. That means he's not going to get any of the thawab associated. He's not going to get any of the reward associated with it. Yes, you might not have to make up this day. But if you spend your day talking about other people, spend your day accidentally insulting others, okay? Not good. Not good. The time of Siyam, and again, it's a beautiful question because, again, that means you want to learn something, which I really appreciate you asking the question. Jazakallah khair. During the time of Siyam, you are giving up something that is a necessity. You cannot live, for long at least, without food and drink. Yet, you and I are proving to ourselves that we can do it. I go to work, and sometimes I tell them I'm fasting. You can see it in their eyes, like wide open. It's like, what? No food, no drink, wow! Right? Kind of like, he's laughing because I'm pretty sure you see that people are just like mesmerized. Like, how do you do that? I sometimes in my mind I said, wait until I tell you my 6-year-old does it. Right? I don't want to tell them that to kind of like, but it's the ability to do it proves to you that you can give up something that is extremely necessary. I'm sure that talking about others behind their back is not necessary. I'm sure that, again, pushing someone or shoving someone or being, again, like extra joking is not necessary. So when the Imam al-Ghazali rahimahullah talked about the select few, and maybe this is, inshallah, all of us can reach this level, is he talks about you need to stay away from things that even might be halal. Excessive entertainment. right? Things like, if I can sit down and get my mobile phone or my TV and I keep on watching. Maybe there's nothing, again, if there's nothing haram on TV that you're watching, okay, because if there's some stuff that is haram, we know that for a fact. But if there's, let's say there's nothing haram, you're watching nature, or like a documentary, or something like that doesn't have anything haram. It says even that, not in the month of Ramadan. That's not, again, you can do it some other time. We should be pushing ourselves, exerting ourselves, helping ourselves. There's juhd, exert the effort to come closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. To come closer to Allah this is the month of Ramadan. To the extent that we'd leave things that would be normally even accepted during outside the month of Ramadan. So spend your day, you and I spend our days, it's a boot camp. 29 days, 30 days of focus. The whole goal, inshallah, of it is لَعَلَّهُمْ يَتَّقُونَ. That we will reach this level. So we may, if we engage in this, that we may reach this level of consciousness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Even to a period of time, because there's another Ramadan that's coming, inshallah, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us Ramadan after Ramadan after Ramadan, and that the renewal happens. Right? But I always, and I love it. There's one verse that really, whenever anything like this hit me, is like, أَلَا يَعْلَمُ مَنْ خَلَقَ وَهُوَ اللَّطِيفُ الْخَبِيرُ. Doesn't the one who has created you and I know better or know best but what works for us? So when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, you need to fast, because if you fast, you might reach this level of taqwa. The one who has created is telling you the recipe for you to reach the taqwa, you and I. Said, if you engage in this correctly, لَعَلَّهُمْ يَتَّقُونَ. You may be one among those who have reached this level of consciousness. They always say something very nice also in Fiqh. They said, مَا لَا يُدْرَكْ كُلُّهُ لَا يُتْرَكْ جُلُّهُ. Something that you're not going to be able to completely fulfill. That doesn't mean that you have to leave it completely. Let me repeat that again. Something that you might not be able to completely fulfill does not mean that you completely leave. What does that mean? If during the month of Ramadan, with your brothers, someone accidentally insults you, you don't have to accidentally insult them back. Okay? Because if they did something wrong, that doesn't mean you have to reciprocate back, right? So, if you were the one who accidentally done that, that doesn't mean you give up on yourself and say, I'm done. I did something wrong. Continue. Astaghfirullah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Ask Allah for forgiveness and continue on your fast. But when you ask for forgiveness, you and I, because we all do mistakes, ask sincerely. Don't ask for forgiveness knowing that you're going to go back and do the same mistake again and again intentionally. Don't. Because you're kidding yourself. You're not kidding Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You're kidding yourself. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, I went a little bit over time. I wish, wallahi, I got the book because I wish I could read to you just 1 or 2 pages of this. It is just beyond beautiful to read what Imam Ghazali rahimahullah talks about when he explains what fasting should be like. Again, if Imagine was here, I'm pretty sure he would have started with that. But unfortunately, we didn't have the time to do it. But again, if you have the chance, it's again, maybe the first 2 or 3 pages. Not the Ihya al-Ulumuddin that talks about like the fiqh piece first, and then he goes and says the inner dimension of things. Because like the asrar, the secrets of fasting. If you get the chance, it's online, in English. You can read these 2, 3, 4 pages in the beginning, okay, of this. If you can finish the whole chapter of the secrets of fasting, I would highly recommend it. It's just beyond beautiful, because it sets our goal clearly. It's not just food, drink, and the others. It's beyond that. Jazakumullah khairan. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala again forgive anything that I've said completely wrong. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgive me for that. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give me the chance again. If I said it wrong, I come and see you and correct myself. If you have any specific questions, as I mentioned, you can go ask your imams here. If you're from this community, of course, Imam Majid and Sheikh Abdul Rafa are here. You can ask them your specific questions for something specific need, right? And if you're in any other community, you can feel free to go and ask your own imam, inshallah, for this. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes us amongst those who reach Ramadan. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes us among those who engage in the month of Ramadan as He subhanahu wa ta'ala loves us to engage. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes us amongst those who make it Ramadan after Ramadan after Ramadan. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes us amongst those who reach the month of Ramadan and they are amongst the victorious ones, the ones who are accepted by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala fill our hearts with His love subhanahu wa ta'ala and the love of our beloved Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, and makes us among those who follow in the footsteps of Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam in this life, that we meet with him on the hereafter, that he sallallahu alayhi wa sallam is pleased with us, and that we go with him hand in hand to Jannah under the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala altogether. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes us among those who are also engaging in always in acts of worship, acts of knowledge, that we come closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, knowing our deen better. أقول قولي هذا أستغفر الله لي ولكم.